Today is lesson 3-4, dividing rational numbers. If you continue to watch my videos every week, I appreciate that and I thank you. And today is kind of a little bit a review. You're lucky after the last few days, I feel like it's been new stuff. So it's a little bit of review today with new things mixed in. So don't think you don't have to watch it. There's new things at the end. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what is a reciprocal. It's a word you've heard since you've been young. Reciprocal. What's a reciprocal? We use it when we divide fractions. Okay, the reciprocal is the opposite. So for example, if you have 3/4, your reciprocal is 4/3. It's flipping the second one. You know, a lot of times when you divide fractions, remember, I think maybe last year we talked about keep, change, flip, and you maybe talked about that in 6th grade also. That flip part is the reciprocal. Now, you've learned the word reciprocal from probably, I don't know, probably 4th grade up until 7th grade. Now we're going to start calling it something different. We're going to start calling it the multiplicative inverse. And actually, if you think of the word multiplicative inverse, it makes more sense than reciprocal anyway. Inverse means, you know, pretty much opposite. So multiplicative inverse we're going to start using instead of reciprocal. So make sure you get to know that word. Now, a few things we need to do before we start is to find the multiplicative inverse of some of these, because if we don't know how to do that, we can't divide. So the first thing to find the multiplicative inverse, if you have a mixed fraction, the first thing you have to do is change to an improper fraction. And then you can flip. Okay, so this is if you have a mixed number. All right, so if I look at this 6 1/3, now let's just remember how to make an improper fraction again. 3 times 6 plus 1, so 18/19 over 3 would be my improper fraction. My reciprocal would be 3, or multiplicative inverse would be 3 over 19. So the first thing you have to do, find the improper fraction, then you can go ahead and flip it. Now the same thing over here, even though it's a negative number, we're just going to forget about the negative. We're going to do 3 times 2 plus 1. So 6 plus 1 would be 7 over 2, negative 7 over 2. Now if I wanted to find the reciprocal, it would be negative 2 over 7. That would be the multiplicative inverse. So really, it's pretty simple. This is stuff you've done before. So first you got to change to an improper fraction and then flip. If you would just have a regular number like 4/9, the multiplicative inverse would be 9 over 4. So if you just have a plain old fraction, pretty easy to flip. But if you have a mixed number, there's a few more steps to it. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to start dividing fractions. Like I said, it's stuff you've done before. I just ask that you write things down so you know what you're doing. So if you remember, we're going to keep the first, change the sign here, and we're going to flip this. So this is going to be 1/9 times 12 over 5. Now, some people ask me when you can reduce. You can reduce after you do your flip. You can't reduce before. Okay, so you can reduce after you flip. Now, if I look at these 1/9 and 12/5, I can reduce the 9 and the 12. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Now you can multiply across. I get 4/15. It cannot be reduced again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my answer. Okay, let's try another one. I have negative 3/7 divided by 8. You have to make if you have a whole number, you have to make it a fraction. And to make it a fraction, you put a 1 underneath of it. Whole number always gets a 1. Then you can do your keep, change, flip. Be negative 3/7 times 1 over 8. No reducing here, but I do have a negative fraction, so I know my answer is going to be negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 7 times 8, 56. And that would be my answer. Now, if you can reduce, you have to make sure you reduce if you can. I don't believe I can reduce this one, but it has to be reduced at the end, just like normal, like we always discuss. All right, the next one I'm going to do is one that has mixed numbers. Here is a time where we would have to make improper fractions. You can't just multiply your whole numbers and your fractions. You cannot do that. You have to make improper fractions first. Okay, so improper fractions, have to do it. Woohoo! Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14 over 3. That's a negative. Divided by, no, I'm not going to do any flipping or anything yet. I'm going to find all my improper fraction stuff first. So 9 times 3 is 27. So it'll be negative 28 over 9. Some people try to do their improper fraction and flipping all at the same time, and a lot of times they don't do it correctly. So I'm going to show you just doing it in steps. So this is, I just did improper fractions first. Then you can do your flipping. Okay, so it'd be negative 14 over 3 times negative 9 over 28. There's a lot of reducing that I can do here. 14 and 28, let's see, 14 goes into 14 one time, 14 goes into 28 two times. 9 and 3 can also be reduced by 3, goes in once, goes in 3 times, multiply across. Don't forget you have negatives involved here, so it's negative 1 times negative 3, and you get 3. 1 times 2 is 2. You make into mixed numbers, please. And then it would be 1.5 would be my answer. Okay, I'm going to give you another one, and I want you to try one yourself. Go ahead, try it yourself. Pause it. Okay, so I'm going to start. 3 times 5, 15, to be negative 16 over 3 times, well, and I don't have this as a mixed number, so I'm just going to go ahead and flip right away. It'd be 9 over 3. Notice I only had to change one of them. It was the first one I had to change. I can reduce by 3 and 9, so 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times, so 16 times 3 would be 48. Notice I have a negative, so it's a negative 48 over 3. 1 times 3 is 3, of course, and then I'm going to change into, oh, it's going to come out perfectly. Look at that. It's going to be a negative 16. It's going to be an answer. You could do negative 16 over 1 also. Either one is fine. All right, so then one of the new parts today is called dividing with algebraic fractions. Now, the only difference here is you have some variables, meaning letters instead of numbers. You still have to use reciprocal, and you can still reduce, which is really cool. So let me show you how this would work. You're going to keep this, you're going to change this, and you're going to flip this. So now this is what your new problem looks like. 5, and then 3, A, B. Now remember when A and B are together, it means you're multiplying. So if you want to, you can write them out expanded form just so you know what's happening. I'm going to flip or change my sign, and then I'm going to flip my next. So it's A times B times C all over 15. Now, we can reduce a few things. We can reduce number-wise, and we can reduce letter-wise also. So let's start with the numbers because that's what we're used to. So 5 and 15 can be reduced by 5. So 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Now if I look crossways at my letters, is there anything I can reduce there? Well, if there's an A over here and there's an A down here, they can be reduced. If there's a B here and a B here, they can be reduced. Now, there's no C, so C cannot be reduced because there's nothing that can cancel him out. The reason why we can reduce those A's from both sides and B's is because they would technically cancel out later on down the road if we would have to divide. So now you can multiply across. I have 1 times C on the top, so this is what the top would look like. The bottom would look like 3. There's no other letters in 3, so it would be 1C over 9. So don't let the letters confuse you. It's not confusing. All you need to do is follow what we've been doing. Let's do another example. Let's do this one right here. So I'm going to rewrite it out. 5 times A times B all over 6 times, because we're going to do our keep, change, flip here. And then it would be 7 over 10 times B. Okay, so 6 and 7 can't be reduced, but I know that 5A and B and then the 10B on the bottom can be reduced. So I'm going to first start with my numbers. 5 can go into 5 once, 5 can go into 10 twice. I have B's that are across from each other, so B's can also be reduced. Remember, you can only reduce kitty corner. You cannot reduce really up and down or side to side, so kitty corner is the only way. So now I have everything reduced that I can, and I would take 1 times A times 7, which would be 7A. And then bottom would be 6, and I have 2 also on the other side, so it would be 7A, and then 12 would be my answer. I'm going to have you try the other one by yourself. Go ahead, write it down, get it flipped. Make sure you reduce numbers and letters and everything you can. because the goal is to have the answer in simplest form as possible. Okay, I can reduce number-wise. Goes in once, 4 goes in once, 4 goes into 8 2 times. I can reduce letter-wise, m's and m's. So I have 2 times n on the top, so it'd be 2n. Bottom, I don't have anything but a 1, and that would be my answer. Really, that's all I have to show you today. Short and sweet to the point. If you have any questions, let me know. Make sure you took some good notes, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.